so this is the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra, and this is the previous S25 Ultra. A lot of things are almost exactly the same between these two phones, including the $1299 price tag. But in this video, I wanted to go over the actual real-world differences between these two phones, because there's probably a lot of you with older Galaxy phones looking to make an upgrade this year, and for the few of you looking to see if you should upgrade from the S25 Ultra to the S26 Ultra. You definitely shouldn't in that case, but yeah, let's go over these actual differences, starting with the hardware. Okay, from first glance, they look almost identical. It's pretty much the same minimal sleek design. I did get the black color again this year because I think it's the sleekest looking one, and it was the same reason I went for it for the S25 Ultra as well. The color is almost the exact same shade, but the S26 looks a tiny bit on the lighter side, but it's basically unnoticeable. As you can see, the S26 Ultra has a much more rounded design, especially at the corners, so it definitely doesn't dig into your palms as much, and the display itself is more rounded on the corners too. It's also slightly thinner and lighter, but when I hold these two side by side, I can't really tell the difference. Those big camera rings on the S25 Ultra are gone now, and instead there's this slightly translucent camera island, which is a cool touch. And there's also some really weird, awkward design downgrades too. Instead of the titanium on the S25, the S26 is now made of aluminum again. In the hand though, the titanium on the S25 Ultra ironically feels slightly more premium to me at least. It's got a bit more brush feel. The S26 Ultra feels smoother and more coated, which actually makes it feel a little less premium. The S26 also has slightly bigger bezels. It's not much of a difference, but that's kind of weird. The camera bump is also bigger, which makes the phone wobble a bit worse. The S Pen itself is also a tiny bit less wide, which might affect grip, and while the S Pen on the S26 can technically be put in either direction like the S25, it sticks out super weirdly if you put it in the other way because of the rounded corners, so really Samsung wants you to put it one way only. That's really all there is to the differences. I'm personally not too excited about the design changes here, but for my first few days with the S26 Ultra, I think it does look a little cleaner since the camera rings are not so thick and ribbed anymore. Still though, the S25 Ultra's squared off look seems slightly more premium to me at least, but I don't have a huge preference for one over the other. Let me know in the comments which one you think looks better just in terms of aesthetics. Now the real upgrade for the S26 Ultra starts with the display. It's still the same dynamic AMOLED with the same display size, resolution, brightness levels, refresh rate, still not a native 10-bit panel, and looks like it's even the exact same tuning, but the S26 Ultra now comes with a built-in privacy display feature that you can dynamically turn on or off. How it works is actually really cool. The display has narrow and wide pixels, and the wide pixels turn off when you turn on the privacy display, so the display only looks clear and visible to the person's eyes directly facing it. It's dynamic since you can set this to be on for the whole display, or just for your notifications, or for a specific set of apps. You can set this even further by setting a specific routine so that it only turns on during specific situations. For me, the privacy display is only on for sensitive apps like banking, wallet, and things like that. I know we always talk about how Samsung makes the same phones every year, but this one feature is actually a pretty standout practical feature that does deserve credit. The only potential downside is that the S26 default display, even without privacy display on, has slightly more limited viewing angles compared to the S25. The anti-reflective coating also doesn't seem to be quite as anti-reflective as the S25, and when you do have the privacy display on for the S26, it's a pretty jarring experience since all those specific wide pixels are now off, so the display itself looks a lot different, even to the person directly looking at it. It's got a bit of a HDR-like shiny perspective that looks a tad bit like those glasses-free 3D displays. The pixels look sharper but less smooth, so it creates this weird visual effect when you first start looking at it. So for me, I actually got a bit of a headache when looking at this display with privacy display on, so I don't use it that often. I really only use it for checking those few sensitive apps. So for those of you with sensitive vision, that's definitely something to consider since this feature might actually not be advantage for you. The dual stereo speakers also provide a very similar experience between these two phones, but I did notice slightly better tuning on the S26 Ultra. The audio sounds a little cleaner on the S26. The S25 speakers had a bit too much treble, so it sounded not as high quality. The S26 speakers aren't a huge upgrade, but I do see some kind of improvement here. You really need to have both of these side by side to notice any differences though, so it's basically the same experience. For the cameras, you're seeing very similar hardware between these two phones, but the S26 Ultra does have some changes. So they have almost the exact same specs, but the 3x telephoto sensor is actually a tiny bit smaller, which sounds like a bit of a downgrade, and there is a wider aperture for both the main and the periscope telephoto lenses, which promise cleaner images with improved low light performance. When seeing the actual results, you're mostly getting the exact same experience. The selfie camera is the same, the S26 just has a bit more sharpening going on. The ultra wide results are also identical. Macro shots are also about the same, but you slightly have more depth on the S26, so the images just look a little bit less flat. Even though the 3x telephoto sensor is a tiny bit smaller now, the results are identical with maybe a bit more sharpening on the S26. Now, the main sensor is where I found the most improvements. The S26 main lens gets better focused and slightly cleaner images. The pictures in general aren't as soft looking. You also get a tiny bit more bokeh and depth to the photos. There's also slightly better dynamic range, especially for bright spots and images, and the glass being used on these camera lenses seems to be much better with lens reflections and flares. Now, even though the big promise was better low light images, the difference really wasn't that big. You do get a bit better focus, less noise, slightly cleaner images, but for super low light images, the night mode and the general image processing gets super weird and does a little bit too much software work. It makes the images look totally artificial and cartoony. For these worst case scenarios for low light, I actually prefer the S25 Ultra instead. The 5x periscope lens also got a bit of an upgrade. Images look slightly less soft with better focus and higher level of detail, but in most cases the results look pretty much the same too here during the day. In low light, I did notice less noise, slightly cleaner images, but really not much of a difference. And just like the main lens, it makes weird decisions with the night mode, making things look way too processed. For video recording, you're getting the same results for all the lenses for daylight situations. The two things I did find a little better is the stabilization that looks more natural, and the digital zoom quality such as the 2x zoom looks much more clear on the S26. For low light situations, I do notice slightly better processing to get more detail with slightly less noise, but most of the time the results will look identical too. The only real advantage that I found from the video recording is the new horizon lock feature for super stable video recording. It's only QHD resolution available for this mode, so the resolution isn't ideal and the footage quality doesn't look that great, but the stabilization is awesome. I was on this super shaky bus and I got really stable footage out of it, which was impressive. All in all, it's an almost identical camera experience between these two phones, with only the most noticeable improvements coming from the software optimizations for the main lens. For the software experience itself, the S26 Ultra comes with One UI 8.5 out of the box, and I'm actually running the One UI 8.5 beta on my S25 Ultra, so it's basically the same exact experience. It's just that the newest AI features that just got announced, like the text-based photo editing, now nudges, and Bixby are only on the S26 for now, but those are going to come to the S25 anyway, so yeah, it's going to be the exact same experience soon enough. The only potential difference here just comes down to the performance. The S26 Ultra comes with the latest Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy chipset, while the S25 Ultra has a previous gen Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. Samsung promises some marginal improvements year over year, including 39% improvement in NPU performance, 24% with the GPU, and 19% with the CPU. The day-to-day experience also feels exactly the same even when multitasking. I did notice the AI generation processing is a tiny bit faster, but nothing too notable. I did notice that the export times for video editing seem noticeably faster. For short videos, this won't really be a difference, but for bigger video files, this will be very helpful. Samsung seems to be promising better peak performance and thermals, especially for gaming, since the S26 Ultra has the largest vapor chamber ever within this series. Gaming wise, I actually don't see much of a difference at all, since there aren't many games that push the Snapdragon 8 Elite past its limits before, and there still really aren't. So here, I wouldn't really say there are any noticeable gaming advantages, at least in my experience. But I did find that the S26 Ultra heats up less compared to the S25 Ultra, all thanks to that larger vapor chamber for better cooling. Moving on to the battery, which is sadly the same 5000 mAh cell as before, still no larger silicon carbon battery here. Samsung has mentioned that they made some efficiency upgrades to the S26 Ultra in the battery life, and in my experience, that does seem to be marginally true. The S25 Ultra already had great battery life, getting me 6 to 7 hours of screen on time with great standby time. The S26 Ultra gets me 6.5 to 7.5 hours of screen on time. This is a marginal improvement. I'm sure there will be fluctuations, but it is better than the S25. We see more of a noticeable upgrade for the charging speeds, now getting up to 60 watts of wired charging and 25 watts of wireless charging. It's still nowhere close to what Chinese flagships are doing, but I am thankful we're finally seeing a bit of an upgrade here. With 60 watts, I can get a full charge in just about 45 to 50 minutes. Before, with the S25 Ultra, I got a full charge at just around 60 minutes. That might not sound like much of a difference, but the initial charging speed from 0 to 75 is so much faster than before, so this upgrade was pretty noticeable. So putting everything together, the S26 Ultra does have some marginal upgrades over the S25 Ultra with faster charging speeds and the privacy display. If you are coming from an older phone and you're trying to choose between these two phones, if there is a big price gap like $200 or more, I honestly say just save some money and go with the S25 Ultra instead. But if your region has some special deals for the S26 Ultra, especially during this launch period, then yeah, just go for this one. It's a great choice for a great all-around phone, and it's basically just a better S25 Ultra, even though it's just a little bit better. But if you already have the S25 Ultra, definitely just keep your phone. I don't think there's anything too notable here, and at least for me, the privacy display is not much of an advantage to see it as a killer feature. Alright, so those are all my thoughts about these two phones. Let me know in the comments what your takeaways are here. Still more S26 Ultra videos coming up on the channel, so make sure to like this video and subscribe to stay tuned for those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.